You know that feeling when you're looking at a piece of art or you're reading a story and something just feels off? Like it's technically perfect, but it's just kind of hollow. It's this weird, almost uncanny ability we have to feel the difference between something a human made and something a machine spit out. So let's dive into that because figuring out that feeling gets right to the heart of what makes us, well, us. And to get to the bottom of this, let's just try a little experiment right here, right now. You're the judge. I'm going to show you two short stories. Both are about getting a medical diagnosis. As you read them, just pay attention to your gut. Which one actually connects with you? All right, here's the first one. We'll call it Story A. It talks about a strange pain, this long hunt for answers, and that weird mix of shock and relief when you find out you have some rare condition. Just let that one sink in for a second. Okay, and here's Story B. This one's about back pain, a trip to the doctor, and the huge relief of finding out it's kidney stones, which then kicks off this whole new commitment to being healthy. Again, just notice how it makes you feel. Okay, you've seen them both. So which one felt more real to you? More human? Go with your gut on this one. So if you found yourself leaning towards Story B, well, you're not alone, not by a long shot. Story A was actually written by an AI. So the big question is, why can so many of us feel that difference, even when we have no idea who or what is behind the words? And look, this isn't just a hunch. A recent study basically confirmed this whole thing. We can call it the empathy gap. As you can see here, people consistently felt way more empathy for the stories written by humans. And the feedback they gave was so telling. People said the AI stories felt fake and over the top, or just clearly written by a robot, because they were missing what we all instinctively recognize as genuine lived experience. So how in the world does our brain pull this off? Well, psychologists have some pretty fascinating ideas. Let's think of it like this. Imagine you have an internal compass, like a built-in detector for what's authentic. We're going to call it our root tree essence, that deep core part of us that knows what's real and what's just fabricated. In psychology, this compass has a name. It's related to a cognitive function called introverted feeling, or FI for short. Just think of it as your own personal internal dashboard for your values. It's always running in the background, filtering everything and asking, is this real? Does this feel true to me? It's that little voice that tells you if a character's big emotional scene feels earned or totally fake. This is that deep core that helps us tell a real, functional story from one that's just chaotic or phony. Now, to really see this internal compass in action, we can look at a perfect case study. Let's zero in on a personality type that relies on it like crazy, the ESFP archetype. Their whole way of being in the world is pretty much built around this very thing. The way an ESFP is wired is super revealing. See, they lead with this focus on the here and now, on what's happening in the moment. The flip side of that is they don't naturally focus on long-term plans or internal organization. So to find balance, they have this deep, deep need to find reliable, predictable patterns out in the external world. Those outside structures feel grounding, and most importantly, they feel authentic to that internal compass. So, if you've got this authenticity filter, what kind of external patterns does it guide you towards? Well, you're drawn to things that are systematic, reliable, and have an objective structure. Things that feel real because you can count on them, because they are consistent and they just work. And check this out. Think about the world of AI development for a second. It's a super defined and measurable field. A process like this, environment tuning, uses a totally structured four-stage curriculum. It's all about actionable feedback and consistent rewards. This is exactly the kind of predictable, functional world that someone with that ESFP-style compass would find totally grounding and authentic. And get this, there's a deep psychological reason they're drawn to this stuff. What's so cool is how the ESFP and the ISTJ, who is like the classic archetype for an AI developer, they basically mirror each other. They share this common axis for making judgments. They both really value authenticity and functionality, just from totally different angles. It creates this natural psychological click. Okay, so if that internal compass is pulling you towards all these reliable, functional patterns, what is it pushing you away from? Well, it instinctively rejects the complete opposite, unstructured, subjective chaos that just feels totally inauthentic and dysfunctional. A perfect example of this kind of anti-pattern is the psychological state called limerence, which is basically an obsessive, all-consuming infatuation. It's described here as a subjective rejection of patterns, a totally chaotic state with no reliable framework. You're just lost in this shame-fueled fact-finding mission, trying to figure out what's wrong with you. It is the definition of unstructured chaos.
So here's the bottom line. It's all about this contrast. On one side, you have the world of functional patterns. It's predictable, grounding, measurable. On the other side, you have dysfunctional chaos. It's unstructured, subjective, and it rejects clear patterns. And that internal compass, our root tree essence, is psychologically hardwired to seek out one and run from the other.
So this basic human drive for what's real and authentic, it has massive implications as AI gets more and more sophisticated. And it makes us ask some really profound questions about art, about creativity, and, our whole future.
I mean, at what point does a machine become an artist? A huge part of why we value art is that it's a window into another human's mind. We're trying to connect with how the artist sees the world, their unique experience. But what happens when there's no experience there to begin with?
Hayao Miyazaki, the legend behind movies like Spirited Away, had this really visceral reaction when he saw an AI animation demo back in 2016. He called it an insult to life itself. His authenticity compass was just screaming, sensing this profound lack of emotional depth, of the lived experience that fuels real art.
And even our legal systems are completely grappling with this. You can't copyright an artistic style, that's just seen as a pattern. But if an AI copies specific expressive choices from an original piece, that could be infringement. This whole legal gray area just shows how uncertain we all are about where that line is between a soulless pattern and a genuinely expressive work of art.
Think about it. We connect with all kinds of robots and aliens in movies and books, right? We can empathize with them because they were dreamed up by human artists who were asking a fundamentally human question. What would it be like for a human to go through this? It's a projection of our own experience, a perspective that a machine on its own just doesn't have.
And that leads us to the final lingering question. AI is getting scarily good at mimicking the patterns of human emotion and storytelling. So what happens when it becomes a perfect mimic? If the fabrication is flawless, will our built-in compass for authenticity even be able to tell the difference anymore? Will we still know which way is true north?